College football is alive, and we're going to check in with Mr. College Football today, Brenden. Tony Barnhart. Talking about it. So, great morning here on SEC Sideline Sports Network. We're going to talk with Tony. We're going to talk with Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, and Rodney Orr, Tider Insider in Tuscaloosa. So, look, Brenden, they want to take a picture with their cell phone of the QR code. And we broadcast on X. And we also have a YouTube channel with a lot of great shows on there. So check them all out. Watch us now, obviously, or you can watch us later. Just, in your commute, if you live in Atlanta, any big city, you got to commute. Crank us on your sync in your vehicle. You can watch us, and lots to cover today. Brenden, I think yesterday's show with Ellis and Mark and Jake Wimberly and Chris Lee, that was a lively discussion, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lively discussion, but it's not as good as a discussion as I can with my favorite guest in the whole world, with Tony Barnhart, which is obviously near and dear to my heart because he's good friends with one buddy Martin. So it's a great morning when you got Mr. College Football coming up.
That's right. Tony Barnhart, we're going to get started with you right now, and thank you for taking time to join us this morning. Man, that basketball season kind of sucked all the air out of the room, and we were having a hard time using the F word, football, and getting into it. And I was like, wow, college football withdrawals. And then the story with Nico Iamaleava breaks, and we had Mark Ham on yesterday, my wife's cousin. He has 10 season tickets in Knoxville and a massive tailgate, and just wanted to get the opinion of a fan. And then my wife, a Vol for Life, last night comes and reads me Nick Saban's treatise. It was like, this great essay about whether you're a Vol, a dog, you say hook 'em or roll tide. You should celebrate what Josh Heupel did. But as always, welcome, Mr. College Football, to our show.
Well, it's good to be with you guys. It's always good to visit with my friends. Always good to see Brenden. Stay in touch with Buddy a lot, and so it's good to be here.
Love it. Tony, you had some big news yesterday, and I think this is a big deal about how people can access all of your content, because I'm hoping you're going to write forever, because every time you write, it just makes good. You may agree or disagree. You make people think.
Well, thanks. We had been with TMG College Sports for, I want to say 5 years, and we got an opportunity to move. These are the guys: Mark Blaushin, formerly of the Boston Globe; Herb Gould, formerly of the Chicago Sun-Times. We're moving our written content to the Football Writers Association of America, who we are all very close to. I'm a former president, as is Mark, and we're moving all of our written content to FWAA.com. And we're excited. We've had great relationships with the folks at the Football Writers, and it's going to be fun. And will start in May. We'll move all of our written content to that website.
Tony, it's great because the more people read, the more they're going to be informed. And look, 3 months almost from today, we're going to be in Atlanta, I guess at the Omni downtown. Do you know the exact dates of SEC Media Days?
I can tell you.
Okay, because everybody's been asking me.
Got it right here on the master calendar. The SEC Media Days begin Monday, July 14, 15, 16, 17.
Okay. Well, Tony, you know Rich Johnson, our friend over in Atlanta. Rich from Atlanta, a longtime caller on the Feinbaum Show, big Alabama fan. He's got twin grandsons, Alex and Fitz. And, of course, Rich is Mr. Alabama, but the other grandson is a Florida Gator. I mean, he loves bringing the boys to media days, and I'm going to see him, and Jessica will be there. But I think that's an awesome event. Tony, with your knowledge and your history of what's going on, take it away, man, and about what happened with Nico and what you think happens in college football from here on out.
Well, first of all, what happened with Nico was inevitable. It was going to happen. It was just a question of with no guardrails, no floor, no ceiling, no timetable, with none of that stuff in place. It comes down to the player, and how that's all going to work. And so I was not surprised. I was surprised at the timing, but I shouldn't be. And these things are, until we get some guardrails in place. In other words, contracts, buyouts in the contract, where there is on both sides. And here's the thing, guys. Your audience, and as they should, they are fans. They believe in their institution. They want to take care of their school. That's where ultimately their loyalty lies. But the fact of the matter is, anything that you do in this realm has to protect both sides. The courts will tell you that. You can't just protect the player. You got to protect the institution. You can't just protect the institution. You got to protect the player. Until you show me something that does that, then you're gonna lose in court. So not surprised, but hopefully it is the impetus towards getting where we need to go.
Yeah, Tony, I don't have anything personally against Nico Iamaleava, but I do because I see it, and I've seen it in what I do. It's the handlers and the people around them that I think are giving them some terrible advice. And I take a lot of criticism from people because I say, put it in an age banded or deferred trust. Give them some of the money now. But, when you were 18, let's just suppose, Tony, you came from Union Point, Georgia, correct?
Yeah, correct.
All right, a town of about 1,500. And it doesn't matter if you came from Memphis, Atlanta, or there. What would you have done with $2 million when you were an 18-year-old freshman?
No idea, but it probably would have been constructive. It would have been about playing and buying stuff and stuff like that. And I tell you, Rob, that's where it gets a little dicey.
Yeah.
Because what you're going to have there is the court says, well, it's not your job to protect the athlete and his family from themselves. That's not your job. Yeah. They have to have the freedom to do what they want to do. That's just another layer that makes this thing so difficult.
Yeah. Well, but it's when Nico came, when Mark Ham was on the show yesterday, Audrey's cousin, he's a big Tennessee, a lifer. His point was Tennessee had to fight a lot of legal battles just to make that NIL deal work.
Yeah.
There was way more than $8 million. And, that I think what happened there, when Ellis Johnson and I were talking over the weekend about it, and he said, wait a minute, if he missed practice, inexcused, there's no way you can bring him back in that locker room.
Right.
I am really proud of Josh Heupel for doing what he did.
Well, I think the fans are. Paul Feinbaum really said it best. This is an inflection point, and where do we go from here? And I think most of the fans. Well, I told somebody yesterday. I said the only thing worse than not paying it would have been paying it. Okay. That would have been paying it would look bad. The optics would look bad.
Yeah.
Paying it would be worse. And I agree with Coach Johnson. You can't walk him back into the NFL. Okay. Probably, but you can't walk that guy back into the locker room and hope to have any kind of cohesion. So it's again, hopefully this will get people moving quicker in the right direction. But the optics are bad.
Yeah, it is. Also, we got some sad news yesterday, man. A guy that I considered to be one of the Mount Rushmores of college football, Brother Oliver, passed away.
Right.
And,
Great guy.
I remember being in Memphis when he lived in Mr. Young's guest house over there by the country club. And when he was coaching with the Showboats, that was really cool to have Brother living in Memphis. He was a defensive coordinator. That's also when Jimmy Sexton got his start, remember, back there with Reggie White. Ironically, 5 years after the USFL disbanded, 17 of those USFL players from the Memphis Showboats that a lot of them he had coached were still on active NFL rosters. But in my opinion, there's Erskine Russell, who was at Auburn when my dad was there. He called him Erskine, I think that was his real name.
That was his real name, yes, yeah. Erskine.
And Vince Dooley, they were all there at Auburn when my dad was there. I think about Erk Russell. I think about Brother Oliver. I think about Paul Davis. But Bill Oliver, I think I counted 13 SEC championships, a bunch of national championships. But what did you get to know him? I'm sure you did.
I got a great Brother Oliver story for you. Everybody remembers that Alabama beat Miami for the 1992 national championship, and one of the best defensive game plans you are ever going to see.
Yep.
And so I get back from the national championship game. I don't know, sometime after National Signing Day. Says, "Hey, I want to come see you, and if you'll sit down and sort of talk to me about that game plan and how it came together and drove Gino crazy and all that kind of stuff." Yeah, come see me tomorrow.
Yeah.
Guys, I sat in Brother Oliver's office, and he had a little beamer, little PowerPoint where he would point this out.
Yeah.
He stayed with me for an hour and a half and explained every nuance of that game plan, and you understood why Miami never had a chance, because they had the best plan. And he was, and I would call him from time to time just to call him, and he just enjoyed taking my call. And we always had a great visit. So he is one of the great characters, one of the great originals, and a damn good football coach. And I'm sorry we're going to lose it. We lost.
Yeah. And I had heard that a lot of his former players were helping to, take care of him toward the end, and he was a fixture at Lake Martin. I can tell you that. He will be. All my friends out there said he was regular to hold court, but I think the influence that he had on football, blitzing 10 or 11, he did it a few times, and his big deal was interchangeability. Everybody had to know everyone else's assignment.
Right.
So. And I, again, you celebrate the history, the traditions, and the heroes. And ironically, Marcam was in Italy last summer, was at a cooking class, ran into, guess who? The star of that show, Gino Torretta. And he brought that game up, and Gino goes, I don't want to talk about it. It was a masterpiece. It was a masterpiece.
It was.
God. Tony, right now, we know that players in the NFL get paid. What do you see as the biggest difference in the kids in college? I mean, we're July 1st, we're going to be 4 years into it. Kind of give me a report card on how you think NIL is progressing. Good, bad, ugly, whatever.
It's not good. It's not bad. It just is.
Yeah.
And everybody's got to chart their own path, make their own decisions. And we're not going to be where we want to be until we get some structure to it. I still maintain the best way to go about this, if it can happen. Greg Sankey and the other commissioners have spent a lot of time on Capitol Hill, and the main thing I believe what has to happen is they've got to come up with an antitrust exemption for college athletics, because it's different. It's different than any other enterprise. And until you do, and there's no collective bargaining, these things are going to happen. Yeah. So I would say I would give probably a B- so far, and let's see what happens. But hopefully, this situation with Nico is going to motivate people to say, "Hey, we have got to get this done."
We had our lawyer Jack Turner on the show with us Friday, and he is really an expert on antitrust law. And what he said is, there's no civil courts, or those laws don't apply really to college. It's the antitrust. So that's going to be fun to watch. All right, let's look at the SEC. And Brendan's Gators last year, I picked them to win 8 games. They won 8. It was kind of a circuitous route to get there. Now DJ Lagway, Brenden and GatorBaitMedia.com have been on top of this. His shoulder, is he going to play through the season or whatever? But kind of give us a health report on Florida and Georgia. And I still do divisions just for, my head to keep it, organized, because it's like having 16 kids. Where are they?
Where are they? That's right. Well, I think what we're looking at this year in the SEC, and listen, we don't know. Rosters aren't even set yet. That's where people have got to change their perspective. We said going into this, guys, that we're all going to have to adapt, and the fans are going to have to adapt. It's not going to be like it used to be, and you really can't. You can make assessments of team, but until you got your roster set, how can you do that? And things can change. But I see the SEC this year as another year. We had a lot of really good teams in the SEC last year. Don't know that we had a great one, had a bunch of really good ones.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we'll see again this year. I mean, so many great storylines. What happens at Georgia, and I have Georgia fans complain to me all the time. I said, wait just a minute. Let's review. University of Georgia football team won 11 games last year.
Yeah.
They won the Southeastern Conference championship.
Right.
Okay. They beat Texas not once, but twice. And so I thought it was a good. Now, was it a national championship year? Well, no, it wasn't, but it was a very good year, and I think that's where they are. And is Gunnar Stockton going to be the answer at quarterback? So I think that's a situation there. You got to like where the Gators are right now. If Flagway can come back and play the way everybody hoped, I thought their comeback last year was very, very impressive, and I think they will be in the conversation. But what happens at Tennessee, we don't know. What happens in Alabama, to me, Alabama is the biggest story of the SEC. What's this going to look like?
Yeah.
The fans were very disappointed, and we knew they would be. But now in the second year, how is it going to be? So that my point is, there are a lot of really great stories. What's going to happen with LSU? I mean, LSU is going to be really good again. Can they fix their defense? And on and on. South Carolina was playing as well as anybody in the country at the end of last season. So there are a lot of great storylines. I'm just not sure there's a great team among all those really good teams.
Yeah. And you think about how Brenden and I, and you're in this category, we grew up, we knew end to end the roster, heights, weights, hometowns, everything. I remember, no kidding, we were down on 30A July of 05, 20 years ago. We're down there. A hurricane had just hit. There were only like 3 or 4 tents out there. Our big Auburn tent and 3 LSU tents. And we're sitting there having some road sodas, talking to a guy named Mike Anderson, has a great restaurant in Baton Rouge.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, in 1970, you made a tackle against Wallace Clark on the goal line that kept Auburn from trying to tie the game in the rain 17-9. And I still have a Pat Sullivan jersey autographed by Pat Sullivan to this day from that moment. We're fixed like that. You grew up the dogs. I talked to Ralph Jr., Shug Jr., Little Shug, they call him, and his godfather was Wally Butts. I don't want to ever lose that connection. I always call Georgia Auburn's first cousin because there's so much respect in these rivalries. I miss playing Florida. I hate, as an Auburn man, not playing the Gators. That was such an awesome series. And no one talks about what Pat Sullivan, what Steve Spurrier did for Pat Sullivan when he was fighting cancer, getting him treatment with the best cancer doctors in America. If we lose that, Tony and Brenden and everybody watching, we're in trouble. Are you going to write? I know you do. You're like the judge because you're a Georgia grad, but you're fair. I love reading the stories about the history, the traditions, and the heroes. We got to keep that.
Well, one of the reasons, we've talked a lot about scheduling and how scheduling is going to pan out. One of the reasons I'm in favor of a 9-game conference schedule is allow to keep what I call, everybody's got one rival. Well, for Georgia, it's Florida. Okay. Yeah. But what will happen if we don't go to a 9-game schedule, we give up some of the secondary rivalries. And the most important one to me is Auburn. Georgia Auburn is my favorite game, always has been. And we will lose that. It won't be every year. It'll be every other year in the current scheduling model, which is why I want to go to 9 games. I think that would be the best thing for the conference. But these are traditions we grew up. I mean, I grew up 30 miles from Sanford Stadium, and went to my first game when I was like in the fifth or sixth grade. Yeah. And so those games mean a lot to me, and I don't want to lose those.
Tony, we talk a lot about SEC football tradition, all of these things, and I'm not, I always joke with Rob. Rob's like, get off my lawn guy, right? Like he's always like, well, I want it to be like it used to be, and I want it to be like this. And I said, Rob, it's not like that. It ain't going back like that. That is over. Those days are gone. Stop talking about it. It's done. Because right now the SEC hasn't been in the national spot and the national championship spotlight in the last 2 years. what's the answer for Ohio State? What's the answer for Notre Dame? What does the SEC got to do? What does Texas got to do? What are they? Because right now there's no answer. They're 0 for 2 the last 2 years of bringing home any hardware for the Natty. So because the SEC's got a lot of conversation, but they got to start showing up in the national championship.
Yeah.
Well, I know this answer is going to shock you guys, but they got to get more players.
Okay.
Right. This will shock you, but the team with the best players usually wins.
Yeah.
And Ohio State, the coaches said, well, Coach, what do you need at Ohio State to get where you want to go? We need about $20 million in NIL money.
Yeah.
Done.
Yep.
Yeah. But they got that. And they did that. And that's how they had the most expensive team last year. And they dominated. And
they had Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
But but they paid for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They went and found a great offensive mind and made him an offensive coordinator. By the way, is we going to see more of that? Or is this whole model turning off coaches to want to actually be the head ball coach anymore? Mm-hmm. Do you think hey, why don't I just go be a great OC, get a couple of years under my belt, and then go to the NFL?
We're going to see a whole lot more because you're talking about a lifestyle decision. All right. It's about the ability to sort of, because there's so much hassle that goes into being a head coach now. And again, you can make $8, $9, $10, $11 million. I understand that. But you know what? $3 million a year as a coordinator living in Auburn or Athens or Gainesville or Knoxville, right. That ain't a bad living. Okay.
Yeah. New York.
And I think, and you guys know this because we deal with coaches all the time. A lot of coaches, they just want to coach ball. Okay. Yeah. They're not interested in all this peripheral stuff and transfer portal and No. Give me some ball players and let me coach. And if you're in a situation where you can make $3 million a year and have a good quality of life, I think you're going to see more of that. And there's a demand for those guys because now Ohio State could turn that offense over to Chip Kelly and said, okay, buddy, let's go.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah. And my theory has been we're going to see fewer. We didn't see any head coaches fired in the SEC last year. And I said, going forward, what you're going to see is the head coach will remain, in some cases, a figurehead, but the coordinators will be getting, like you say, $2 or $3 million. If it costs you your piece, it's too expensive.
Yeah. Well, I'll just never forget in 1991 when Ray Goff was the head coach at Georgia. He signed a quarterback out of Marietta, Georgia, by the name of Eric Zier, who was probably the best passing quarterback in the country. Yeah. And Ray said, I got to do something to really take advantage of us getting Eric Zier. He went out and hired a offensive line coach from the Atlanta Falcons by the name of Wayne McDuffie. And Wayne McDuffie put in a passing NFL passing offense to take advantage of Eric Zier. And I know, by the way, they paid him the ungodly sum of $100,000 a year in 1991. Yeah. So that shows you how things have changed.
Well, and think about it. When Jim Tunney, who passed away December 12th, the dean of NFL referees, I got to know him through a mutual friend. He said he remembers distinctly one time before a Packers game, they had a star tight end, and he and Coach Lombardi were going at it before the game. And he said, I want $7,000 a year or I'm leaving. And Lombardi said, we're not going a penny above 6,500. Gentlemen, pack his bags. $6,500 a year.
I know.
Tony.
A lot of this, Tony, is what we discussed before. You and I have discussed this before. It's the passion for the game.
Yeah.
It's the passion. It's being raised in the culture. I felt like when we saw Trevor Etienne go from Florida to Georgia, that was something that was what are they, a canary in the coal mine, maybe as far as the culture is concerned about SEC. Because I remember talking to Urban Meyer just shortly after that, and he was like, I just would have sat him down and been like, you can't do this. You can't do this. Like, there's just that's just it. And is that because Billy maybe or some? We're using Billy as an example, but like a coach, let's say, that doesn't maybe understand the culture of the SEC as much. Is that the disconnect when something like that happens? Because I think these little things starts to add up, right? It sort of like becomes the crack in the foundation.
All right. Well, every school is going to have to determine what their line in the sand is. I mean, every school knows what they can do. And again, going back to something I said earlier, you ultimately have to decide which is worse, paying him or not paying him.
Yeah.
Which is worse. In some cases, paying him is worse. And in this case, I think paying Nico would have been worse. Because again, I think you do lose the locker room. And I think people don't talk about that enough. But at the same token, somebody said this, and I agreed with it. It says, look, this is America. We are a free market economy, and there is no bigger free market right now than college football players. And so we've got to have a system where it's okay for Nico to do what he wants to do, but it's also going to be okay for the school to do what it has to do. And that's what makes this so complicated.
Tony, the other thing is that you think about there's a little bit of Tennessee Vol in all of us right now for what Josh Heupel did. As my wife just left in her smoke show T-shirt of Smokey the Hound, and she's very proud of that. But I think about another one. Are we all a little bit of a Clemson fan? Coach Johnson sent me a story from Dabo saying, "I'll never change." Now, guys have always transferred. I remember in 1983, Miles Smith, White Lightning, they called him, defensive back, transferred from Auburn back to Georgia. And in 1985, Bo hit him at the goal line and knocked him through the end zone. But he was a tough player. But guys have always transferred. That's always happened. But Clemson, do you get a chance to sit down ever with Dabo and talk to him about what he's doing? Because you'd be the best to do that.
Well, I've known Dabo since he was a player.
Exactly. That's my point.
And I certainly noticed when he decided he was not going to mess with the transfer portal, but inevitably it eventually has to happen. But Dabo's old school. I mean, he's as old school as they get.
Yeah.
And every institution has to make their decision and then live with it. And that's why it's going to be fascinating the next couple of years. It really is.
It is.
My question, Coach, just sitting there reading about Coach Tony. How much of this is going to be internal policing? I know I don't want to quote this story because I don't have the exact information, but there was something about the USC coach tipping off Tennessee about Nico being interested in testing the waters with his money, right?
Yeah, that was Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning, right?
Dan Lanning called Josh Heupel and said, "Just letting you know, your guys shopping around." And said, "I'm not talking to him," but I thought that was a good courtesy call, coach to coach.
So how much? I mean, that's an interesting way to sort of. Well, obviously it's strategy. Coach is always going to think strategy, but that's interesting to see that there's an internal sort of conversation there with coaches to sort of like, hey, because they really have the power to do a lot here. If they sort of collectively could come to sort of some good coaches could save a lot of this if they don't participate in something.
Well, that is absolutely true, Brennan. But you also know, having been around this game all this time, coaches will all say, "Well, yeah, we're going to police each other and keep each other," and then it'll be that way until it's not.
Yeah.
And then when coaches has a chance to get a really great player, they go, I know what we said, but we get this guy.
Right.
I think it's a great idea in concept on paper. It's a great idea, but do we think the coaches will adhere to it 24 hours a day? No.
It'll take one bad coach and then you'll say, well, everyone will just
sure.
It. Yeah,
absolutely.
And the other thing they do with
contracts are the only thing that's going to work, guys.
Yeah.
You got to have a contract to where both sides understand if you violate the contract, there's a penalty, and both sides have to live up to the contract.
Well, and the other thing is they'll say that they're not going to take kids from the portal. And I mean, Dabo will take some that fit their culture, just like what I really think that Dabo is more of an extreme on it, But Kirby's right there. If they don't fit the Georgia culture, he's not going to do it. And he's been really good at saying, I want guys that want to play ball, that want to wear the red and black, the silver breeches. Those are the guys you want, because they're going to get their NIL. I dare say Stetson Bennett IV has a career in whatever he wants in the state of Georgia for the rest of his life, which will far outweigh anything NIL would have ever paid him. It's
right.
Just,
That's exactly right. And so it's, it's just going to be an interesting time for all of us. And here's the other thing, guys. And I say this to everybody. I said, look, we're talking about this now, but when it comes time to play the game in August and September, nobody is going to care where you got your money. I don't care. Let's play ball. And so that's
right.
I wanted to ask you this because I was asking you this earlier. It's kind of funny to me. I made this point yesterday, Tony, is that okay with the House settlement and all of these things kind of like shaking out, and now the university could have a lump sum of money and all this kind of stuff. It felt like to me we were going back to the old bag money. It's like we're going back to the system that everyone said was broken, but seemed to be the only thing to hold us together. It is feeling like a little weird around here, like Twilight Zone little bit. It's like we're just going to go back to just giving guys cash in a McDonald's bag, I guess. So I guess that's what we're going to do, because this doesn't work.
It's even you don't even have to put it in a bag. You can just give it. You just give it to
Venmo it to him, man.
It's right on the table. Here it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what it really is. And Tony, I know you got to go, but I think it's like asking people how much money they make. You don't do that. I mean, that's the part of it. I want to see guys. And Tony, you said it before last season. We've all said it. The free market will figure this stuff out. Once the balls are kicked up, it's game time, and we'll work it. Tony, again, let people know how they can follow you, keep up with all your great work. And as always, we appreciate more than you ever know how much it means for you to come on our show every time. You're always welcome.
Well, I appreciate that. Starting in May, we will have our written content. My written content will be on the Football Writers Association of America, FWAA, long-standing relationship, former president of the Football Writers. And we have the opportunity to move our content there. That's FWAA.com. Awesome. Pretty simple, and we'll be there starting in May.
All right, looking forward to it. Have you on again?
We found you on Twitter. We retweeted you. I don't know if you're a Twitter guy, but we found you at Mr. CFB College Football on Twitter there.
Indeed, I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Tony. You're the best.
All right, guys. Take care.
You too. All right, let's welcome two more great ones. Yancy Porter Rebel Yell Hotline. Check it out Monday nights, Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis and all over the great state of Mississippi on Super Talk Mississippi. And Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider. It's only $48 a year. Be a subscriber. Get all the information. They have great forums. They do Tighter Insider TV with our good friend Gary Harris Tuesday nights at 6:30. And before we go there, I want to say something about Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama. Open every day of the week. Get all your gear for the outdoor life, hunting, fishing. They got all the Yeti. Yeti makes so much stuff now, way more than coolers. They got everything, and over 2,000 shotguns, rifles, and handguns. Winter Timber, big store under construction in Auburn, right there along Interstate 85, opening in the next 6 to 8 weeks. You're going to love this place. And once you go there, you'll realize Winter Timber rocks. All right. Rodney and Yancy, we had, I know spring games now are much akin to the fair with weight guessing and yodeling and, sack races. But something came out of Tuscaloosa and Oxford this spring. A lot has come out. I'll start with you, Rodney. Ty Simpson. A lot of people, and who's going to be the next quarterback? Is this guy a much better fit than Jalen Milroe was? How's the running game looking? Let's hear it from the man who's forgotten more than we all know about the Tide.
Well, I think all of those questions are still questions. I don't think we know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, Ty Simpson is he a good fit? Does he have tools? He's got a lot of tools. I mean, the practice we saw, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and try to mislead anyone with statistics from 1-on-1, 7-on-7,
Yeah.
and very limited 11-on-11 without even full pads on. It was a
Yeah.
thud practice.
Okay.
So it's really tough to tell a lot, draw many conclusions. I mean, I think Ty's a guy that right now, like we said yesterday on Gary Harris's morning show, if today it was a Florida State game, he'd probably start. Then Ryan Grubb yesterday kind of confirmed that later on that Ty was ahead right now. But I think the two young guys have a lot of potential. It comes down to decision making.
Yeah. Well, I want to go over to Yancy. You think about Austin Simmons comes in for that one series in the Georgia game, and now, he's the man. But we do know this about Lane Kiffin. He can develop quarterbacks. Give us a progress report up to this point from Oxford, what you're seeing, and we'll go back and forth because, man, it is spring football is wrapping up, and almost 3 months from today, 3 months from today, we'll be in Atlanta for SEC Media Days. It's getting here fast.
Yeah, I don't think there's any debate of who the quarterback's going to be, the starting quarterback. I think in Oxford, the debate is who's going to be the backup quarterback, and I think they're going to go in the transfer portal and try to find them a really, really good, experienced backup, kind of like they did a couple years ago with Oklahoma State quarterback. But as far as Simmons, he's everything they're looking for. But he's been in the system for 2 years, like Ty. I think Ty's been there for 3 years, if
At
I'm not
least
He's going on
mistaken. But
4.
going on 4. I was
yeah,
going to say.
he's going on 4. Yeah, he's been there 3. He's going on his 4th year. That's right. So Simmons is, he had a freshman year, a redshirt freshman. He'll be a redshirt sophomore this year, and this is his, going on to his 3rd year. So he's not new to the system. They knew what they were getting with Simmons, and it's been built around his strengths. They're really happy with the wide receivers right now. They might actually have a couple more than they really need. So you can see some portal movement with a couple of the receivers at Ole Miss. They're 10, 12 deep there, and they don't really need that many. So the defensive backfield continues to be kind of the story of the camp of needs and a backup quarterback.
Rodney, looking at Alabama on the defensive side, last year it wasn't up to the typical standard. I mean, you're following Nick Saban, and whether it was Jeremy Pruitt or Kirby Smart, whoever the defensive coordinator was, Pete Golding, who's now at Ole Miss, it wasn't what Alabama wanted. Are you seeing signs, or I know you didn't get to go in the coaches' offices and sit down and then kind of go over each player like they used to, but what's your gut feeling on Alabama's front 7?
Well, I think that's a really good question. I think, their first 3 down guys, Tim Keenan in the middle, and then flanked by LT Overton, who's a projected first-round draft pick. Some people have Keenan one of the top 5 returning defensive tackles.
Wow.
And then of course, James Smith, the he's a junior already from Montgomery. He flashed in that Michigan game, in the bowl game, as you saw. I mean, you look at those 3; those are really good. I think it's the development of the younger players behind them. You could say Jeremiah Beeman, Edric Hill, Jordan Renaud, Keon Keeley. There's others, but I think the development behind them to create a rotation is really big. It's really important for the defense. I think the inside backers. Well, Justin Jefferson and Deontay Lawson are really good, but neither one of them participated much this spring at all. Deontay was out all spring. So Nakai Hill-Green, the transfer from Colorado, Abdul Sanders, a true freshman, Caden Jones, a sophomore, a couple other true freshmen, Luke Metz and Duke Johnson. All those guys got a lot of reps. I think really when you look at the Alabama defense, man, they are loaded, in my opinion, in the secondary. I think it's a Nick Saban level talent in the secondary. Now, I'm not saying they're going to play up to that level. I'm saying that when you look at it, when you got Damani Jackson, who didn't participate this spring, you've got Xavier Brown at the other corner. Those are two really good corners. But Dejon Lee is a young freshman that is just drawing raves at 6'4". So you got Cam Calhoun, a transfer from Utah, so a really good looking player. Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. is he's a guy maybe to watch at that Husky position, play safety Husky. Deshaun Jones is another one. I'm just throwing out the names here. Keon Sabb did not participate this spring, but Zay Mincy back there with Bray Hubbard at safety. Ivan Taylor, a young true freshman. I've already rattled off several names. I think they feel really good about their secondary potential.
Yancy, did you hear what Rodney just said? Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. He's already holy shnikes. Wasn't he from? His dad was from Gadsden.
Yeah. Gadsden
wow,
City.
man, time's flying, guys.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Did you hear that name? Because and he was one of the best players in the secondary. That Rodney, is it correct that the players that Nick Saban recruited, when you add up their NFL contracts, it adds up in excess of $2 billion what they've earned?
It's a lot of money. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's up there, no doubt. They've advertised it a little bit, and I just don't remember what the number is.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yancy, looking at Ole Miss, Pete Golding, and what he's doing at Ole Miss, talk about their defense. Last year, I can't remember Ole Miss having as stout of a front seven, and those D linemen were, as they say in the country, full-grown men.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the opposite of Alabama. I think they feel really, really good about their front seven on defense, and there's a lot of question marks in the secondary. I think one of the corners they're really, really excited about is TJ Banks, actually out of Alabama. He flopped from safety to corner his freshman year, which is unusual. Usually it goes the other way around. But they think he's a star in the making. And, how quickly can he be a lockdown corner? We'll see. He had his redshirt year this past year and played some. He played in 4 games and did well, but the other corner spot is still up for grabs. And safety, I think they're worried about their length. I think they got a lot of guys that are in the 6'5", 5'11" range running around back there, and they want to get longer. They want to get in that 6'2", 6'3" range. So I think they're going to hit the portal hard on the defensive backs. On the front seven, they feel really good. They signed they thought was their best D line class under Kiffin yet. Last year, they signed 6 defensive linemen, and they all played last year, but a couple of them, played a few games, but didn't get in more than 4 games. But they've been in the weight program for a solid year now, and they feel good about them. 5 of the 6 were in spring practice. They're true for, their senior year. They graduated early, so this is their second spring, and they think they've got some good ones, and they love those defensive ends that they got out of Nebraska. Princely's brother there, and then Womack out of LSU at the other end. He's about 6'5", 275, and they feel really good about that defensive line, and they feel really good about the linebackers. They just still some question marks in that secondary.
All right. That being said, are both of y'all in favor of a 9-game SEC schedule? Tony Barnhart referred to that in the segment before y'all came on, because I'm for it like he is, so we can save the rivalries. He referenced Florida, their big rival, or Georgia's big rival is Florida. And second is Auburn. It's the oldest, Deep South's oldest rivalry. But lately, Georgia has just dominated that series. But hey, it goes in cycles. They dominated Florida 11-1 when Spurrier was there, and it's crazy what happens. But I think we need a 9th game, Rodney. I'll start with you.
Rob, I know that Nick Saban was for that for a while, and then it seemed like he kind of changed his opinion a little bit. I don't know actually what it is now, but 9 games in the SEC, that's I guess there's certainly some, if certainly some good things about that, but that's a rough, tough road to hoe. I mean,
It is.
I mean, I understand saving the rivalries and all that stuff, but I mean, the SEC's tough, man. I mean, it's so competitive. I would have to think that one through a little bit, because I'm telling you, you want to get as many teams in the playoffs as you possibly can, and playing another SEC game, I think, could hurt a team.
Yeah, and let me correct myself. I want to make sure. I was just talking about the cycles, how rivalries. Steve Spurrier was 11-1 against Georgia. Now Georgia seems to have the upper hand, but that ninth game, Yancy, I'll preface my comments by saying I'm for the ninth game, because as you go to a 14 and then a 16 team playoff, I think you're going to start seeing 9-3 SEC teams getting in based on strength of schedule.
That's a different story. Yeah.
Okay. I should have qualified my remarks. I strike them from the record, the first ones. The judges ruled.
From a fan's perspective, I would love a 10-game SEC schedule. I don't think there's anything more boring than in September in the 100-degree weather watching, these teams play the slippery rocks of the world. I mean, I enjoyed the COVID year when it was an all SEC schedule. But how is the selection committee going to pick the teams? Are they just going to go off the best records like they did last year, and you got half the field in there that had no business being in the playoffs? Or are they going to select it like they do in basketball and baseball, where they're taking strength of schedule and where you play them in quad one games and road wins, and do it like they do the other sports? I think it was a lot of inclusion in the playoff system last year, and they wanted teams from all over instead of just one conference. And so if they do it the fair way, if they do it like they do the other sports and basketball and baseball and tennis and golf and the rest of the sports, I'm all for a 10-game schedule. Honestly, I don't think you need more than 2 non-conference games. You play one, maybe a local rivalry that is a non-conference, and then one kind of tune-up game, right? And then get on with it. But if they're gonna do it like they did this year, even if they go to a 14, 16 game playoff, I'm for an 8-game schedule. Let's make it as boring as possible, where the TV ratings are awful, and you watch Alabama play, Arkansas Pine Bluff, and Ole Miss play Northern Tech University, Virginia, and let's form to death and force a change for the playoff committee to say, hey, let's get the best teams and not the best records.
Yeah, I mean, last year was a lot of inclusion. Just to be different. You want to be different, don't you, Pyle? Well, that was stupid. And I think you go to a 10-game schedule. Well, look, I will say this: Ole Miss last year, and Yancy, you made a good point to me. You've got a family, and you said, I'm paying this premium for these seats I have, and really, there's 3 games you didn't even want to go to. And
that's correct.
And I go back to always give credit, but 45 years ago in April, I remember reading in the Auburn Plainsman, Doug Barfield, the coach at the time, said, well, why can't we here at Auburn play Kentucky or LSU or Ole Miss? We don't play them every year. Play them in the spring game. He goes, yeah, I think you'd have a nice crowd, 45 or 50,000 people. There'd be a lot of interest in it. What y'all both just said makes a good case for, let's play some spring games. Maybe you're playing a 1AA team in your own state, but that's a payday for them. But I don't like getting rid of spring games. So what I just said, I'll start with you, Rodney Orr of Titer Insider. It's only $48 a year, folks. You cannot get better coverage on the Tide than you will with Titer Insider.
So the question is about spring games?
Well, spring games, and also playing another opponent like in the spring, and because Yancy's talking 9 or even a 10-game schedule, get that game out of the way in the spring instead of playing it in the fall.
I mean, look, didn't a couple of teams try to do that this year and they got shot down? Who was it? What teams was it that there was a couple of schools that wanted to play a spring game against each other? Colorado. Okay. So yeah, I like the idea. again, I haven't sat there and evaluated all the good and bad of it, but
Yeah.
Here's the thing though. I'll tell you about these springs too. Now with this playoff the way it is, these teams that make it into deep into the playoffs, and they're beat up teams.
They are.
They're physically beat up teams, and to turn around 2 months later, I'm not talking necessarily about a game, but just turn around and have a physical spring. That's another change I think in spring practices. Like I didn't, again, we didn't get to view Alabama's spring, but a couple of brief media viewing periods, and then we had the Saturday practice.
Wait,
And the
what
one
about last? I don't mean to interrupt you, but last Tuesday morning at 8:30, I thought they invited you into the Coach DeBoer's office for a one-on-one. I'm kidding.
Well, I did. That's what I did. I went to the last Tuesday was one of the media viewing periods.
Yeah.
So we got about 20 minutes there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that did happen. And but this past Saturday was obviously the open practice. And the one thing that I took away from it, while I thought it was a really crisp practice, I mean it went, but it just wasn't very intense. And when I say intense, there wasn't, there weren't a lot of one-on-ones in terms of offensive and defensive linemen that we saw. There weren't it just wasn't really physical. And I do understand that just 2 days earlier they had a 110 play scrimmage. I get all that.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, with these playoffs, you're talking about the playoffs and playing a spring game or a spring game against another opponent. It's one thing you do have to remember, though, is especially for these teams that get into the play, it's a long season. And, that spring makes it tough.
Yeah. I'm going to try to get Dr. Andrews to come on here and talk about, I think we're too dismissive as fans, unless you've played sports. When someone tears an ACL or rips an Achilles, I'm not using the term catastrophic, but every doctor I talk to says it takes about a year. And 85% of the recovery occurs pretty soon, but it's that final 15 to 20 to where you have the confidence to play on your feet. Yancy, your thoughts on what we just talked about?
Well, I think spring games are done. I just think from a physical standpoint, like he was just talking about there, they're beat up. I think it's going after the NFL model. I really do. I think that's where we're headed, and then really, what most importantly, what they're worried about now is that if you have let's say a redshirt freshman, and he balls out in the spring game, and it's on TV, or you're playing another opponent, what do you think's going to happen? Then you got the NIL that starts. Excuse me, the portal opens up the next week, and other schools are going to be coming after them,
Yeah.
and they don't want that. And so until they get some kind of policy, some kind of rules that can prevent that from happening, the spring games are done.
Well, I think they know where the players are, but then when they see them, that player, if he has a big spring game and some school comes after him, the first conversation he's going to have with you is not, Coach, can I come in for extra tape sessions and work on technique? It's going to be, I want more money. And I'm telling you, we're going to drive the good coaches, more and more of them, out of the game if we don't get some guardrails. And you're going to have a bunch of 28-year-olds, but they'll pay them $150,000 a year, which is less than some of these high schools in the Deep South pay their coaches. Guys, yeah.
And here's the deal, though, Rob. It's not the NCAA that's trying to put rules in place to get some kind of order with this. It's the courts are rejecting the NCAA, and I'm going to take up for the NCAA on this, and that's very few and far
Correct.
in between through
Yeah.
my lifehood. But the courts are rejecting to try to get order. So if the courts say that the NCAA can't put restrictions on players leaving, so to speak, after a spring game, and limiting the NIL deals that it was supposed to originally meant to be, which would be, name, image, and likeness. now you just have collectives that are just paid
Yes.
players, right? So if the courts shoot down all of this, you just have to adapt. We can sit here and cry about it and say, "Yeah, they're going to run the game. They're going to run the game. The game's still going to continue to go on. The fans are still going to continue to want to see football. And actually, the product's even getting better now because you're getting even more good players and experienced players on these teams that is making the product even better. So you just got to adapt. But I think they're going the NFL model. Ole Miss had Meet the Rebels Day, and they haven't done that during Lane's era. And they got to get autographs and take pictures with the players and coaches and build a little relationship with them, which they have not been open in Lane's previous 5 years. So I think that's the model you're going to start seeing. It's just building relationships again with the players and the coaches and get away from the spring games because of injuries, just like the NFL model. That's why they don't like doing that at their OTAs. And then, more importantly, again, it's because players will get picked off your team and go other places, whether it's money or, player sees more playing time if another school approaches them and say, hey, you're coming behind an All-American. You're a freshman, but you got 2 years to wait. Come over here and play right now, and we'll pay you better,
Yeah.
right? So you can't blame the
Yeah.
player there. But until the courts change their rulings, which I don't think is going to happen, you just got
Yeah.
to adapt.
How much of it too, Brenden? Sorry, Rodney just dipped out, but I want to talk to Yancy just as well. It's a question for everybody, but it's just I just feel like we are going back. Like I maybe I'm just because I'm ADD like crazy, right? Dyslexia, the whole nine, right? So one of our superpowers is we recognize patterns and see things. So I'm looking at numbers and data all day long. Like I'm reading metrics. That's my whole gig, right? Like and so it's hard not to recognize certain patterns. And I think Rodney's trying to check back in, but it just seems like I'm trying to bring Rodney in. It seems like we're going back to this the sort of where we started, right? I mentioned it to Tony Barnhart, and I mentioned it yesterday. With all of this house settlement situation, the money maybe being allocated to one school, being able to have a plot of money. Are we going back to, handing out bags of cash again? Like, are we going back to this sort of model, that seemingly was broken, but then somehow worked? And it just feels like, we seem to be sort of shifting, back to, what's comfortable, maybe. I don't know. But it feels that way when I constantly look, and I'm doing these podcasts all the time, even in basketball, whatever, we're going back to this, the culture of the SEC and leaning on these sort of, things that we know that we work that are familiar.
I don't think we're going to hand in the back. The collectives are here to stay. The courts rejected that the NCAA could limit how much they can make of what they perceive to be a fair NIL deal, right? So
Right.
that's already been rejected. So the collectives are just going to continue just paying them, and instead of under the table bags of cash, they're just going to pay them monthly.
Right. On the table.
It's on the table. So
Yeah,
the
that's true.
courts have dictated where this is going to go, and the people, the frustration is not should be placed at the court system. They're the ones that have created this chaos. Now the NCAA could have been proactive years back and not let it get to the courts, right?
That's
And
right. But they
start paying the
failed
players
to.
before, but they try to rule with an iron fist, and they were greedy. They wanted 100% of the pie, and the players got nothing. And so that led to where we are now. But the toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't squeeze it back in there. It's impossible. I mean, the courts aren't just going to all of a sudden start reversing their rulings that they've already ruled on across the board and make it back to where it used to be. It's here to stay. It's not changing. This is the way it's going to be. And fans can think that, oh, it's going to run the game, it's and all this, but really it's
No,
making
it
it
won't.
even better. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it's it's frustrating as a fan to think that these players are making that amount of money when you should go and get your education and you start from the low totem pole and build yourself up right to make that kind of money. But hey, look, these players have been in college, have been pounding their body and their brains and CTE and everything else for 13, 14 years of slamming their head basically against a brick wall. Who's to say that they shouldn't start towards the top, even in college? They could live with a life full of, physical and mental injuries from the game of football.
Great. That was awesome, Yancy. I totally agree with you. And Rodney, I wanted you to just kind of like maybe, shed light, because the conversations that we have off the air a lot of the times, uh, what can happen when the narrative is that a lot of this money and things is causing, just chaos and young men and women's lives, in a lot of sense of being access to a lot of things that could be destructive when they don't have guardrails to protect them. Oh, I think we lost
Rodney.
Rod.
Well, here, look, the NFL.
Well, I think
Well, I was just kind of leading to Rodney because his book, he talks about a lot of these sort of things, and and we're just talking yesterday, Rob, about gambling and about the access of getting into debt early, and then hey, look, if you go into debt $1 million, then it's easy somebody to come up and say, hey, maybe look the other way on this deal. I mean, we've got it opens up so much more potential issue. We'll try to bring in Rodney. Rodney, there?
Yeah, and I think he's having
my
some
opinion
issues.
on that is that most of the players that are going into college come from economic backgrounds that aren't too bright, right? They
Right.
didn't have
Yeah.
much money. So while this is new like this, I think those safeguards are, how do you put them in place? But you can have some issues. But I think as we go years down the road and these families have been exposed to money, I think that will get less and less of a worry than it is
Yeah,
brand new with the first generation of players that are making all this money in college. 10 years down the road, I don't think that'd be near as big of an issue.
it's a deal. It's generational. I mean, when it comes to money, if you've always had money, you don't think money's a big deal. But if you've ever not had money, it's a damn big deal.
Well, hey, but look, check out the player parking lot these days. I mean, you know what I mean?
It was that way in college, Brenden.
Yeah, well, but now everyone's got.
When I was there,
yeah, everyone's got a Hellcat.
it was always the nicest place on campus.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
but it's stepped up a level. But
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what fans don't realize is they've been putting their body and their brains through a lot of trauma to get to this point.
Yeah.
And
No,
they're going to live.
it
I mean, anybody that knows these players, and like I covered, I don't know, almost daggone 30 years. So you see them and their kids and stuff like that, and they're becoming grandparents. I mean, there's a lot of mental problems that go. I mean, it's a gladiator sport, right? I mean, you're putting them down there on the field and say, just beat the snot out of each other. You do
beat
that
the
over and
hell
over
out
and
of
over
each
again.
Dude,
Yeah, I mean,
I played up
they
through
should
high
be getting
school.
paid, really.
I played up through high school, and I played 1 year in Florida at Nice High School, and it was a whole nother level coming from Colorado.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that was a la 100 years ago, a la like, hey, the concussions was like, hey, you feel sick? No. All right, go back in.
What it does to your body. I mean,
Yeah.
it's real. My brother-in-law died in August of CTE for the result. He
Oh,
played college football at Virginia Tech, and he was an incredible. And he was he died from the effects. It led to dementia, and it was all the concussions. And when we talked to Dana Marquez, director of equipment ops, came from the NFL to Auburn, and he's now making a lot of equipment. He said, and Ben Troop has said this too, when you play in the NFL on a Sunday, it's like being in a 75-mile-an-hour car collision, okay? You do beat the hell out of your body, but thank God, like the Andrews Sports Medicine Institute, what they're doing for concussion protocol, making better helmets and different stuff like that. It's a violent physical game. But Brenden, you're right. I mean, You go from Colorado to Nice there in San Augustine.
A whole
And
nother level of
yeah,
football too. I
and,
mean, you just got, monsters.
yeah, and
Monsters.
getting
Yeah.
hit by people. I mean, and
Oh.
it's just
I
you
remember
think
one kid played
yeah.
for Trinity Catholic, dude, and they
in Orlando
yeah,
or
and
Cali.
no, excuse, not Trinity Catholic. It was another school out of Orlando. You're right,
Yeah.
Rob. It's actually on DeLand. I forget the name of it. Anyways, nonetheless, his nickname was Hugo because Hurricane Hugo had just hit in Florida. This guy and I played tight end, and I just had the unique pleasure of playing as a sophomore on varsity, which was you just got murdered. And and I played tight end. This guy, his whole job all day was just to beat me up. That was his whole he played defensive end, and that guy's job was just to kill me all day. And he did. I came home, my mother was like, "You are not playing football ever again." Hey, by the way, shout out to the people over here at Custom Protective Solutions, Exo Armor, and what they do for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, it is big. I mean, the pads, the protective pads and all. And there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But we all know players and we talk to them a lot. And you think about boxing, it's really, I mean, boxing and horse racing, not that they were clean, wholesome sports because of the gambling. I mean, that's what took them out. All right.
Wow.
But then
we're seeing that now everywhere. I mean,
that's right.
Yancy, you following the whole referee scandal in the NFL?
Oh,
I mean,
God. Oh,
Yeah, those are the ones that are more
wow,
subjective to the safeguards, right? That are not there when the players and the coaches and everybody else is making millions and millions and millions, and they're making what they make. Those are the ones that could be plucked to cause problems on the gambling side of things. But I mean, I don't know. Or is it should a referee make 7 digits? That's up for debate. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of money involved.
It's all leading to my podcast or our podcast on AI and sports, my friend, and how that is going to change a lot of this stuff. So
you take
the human element out of it, man. I'm telling you,
referees
is the first plot.
We got to be careful about taking, because if you start getting referees holding out for better I mean, look.
But what if if it's fair? I mean, this is a whole kind of, if it's fair and it's clearly fair and it's built that way and there's no bias. I don't know. Is that something we want to see for our sport? Because if we take out the human element, we do perfect it, because AI is
we have to be careful. I mean, and I want to say something too about Chuck McKenzie and Perry Mason. I don't know about that recruiting visit to Florida. They'll get to it tonight on the Buddy Martin show. Xavier Lee, but too many teams in the playoffs just opens up an upset that should not be there. Let the best 8 at the tops play, and of course that's for TV. But here's something interesting. Pro football has survived jerks and jackasses for decades. I mean, Deion's antics in the locker room when he threw beer and champagne all over Tim McCarver, Terrell Owens, Chad Johnson. Hey, man, those guys are just speed bumps in the road of life. We'll get through them. Wow. And the game of football will survive. But I'm glad to see the doctors. And I'm going to see if Dr. Andrews will come on to talk about what y'all both just said, what it does to your body. But Yancy, we'll let you go. Awesome stuff.
I see what he's saying. I see what's going on, because I'm looking right here, and what's his name? Xavier?
Yeah. What do you hear?
Yeah. Let's see. He is actively. Oh, because Walter Clayton Jr. tweeted about the visit is on.
Okay.
At Florida. So obviously he's doing the back end on that.
There we go.
So there we go. There it is. There you go. AI on Twitter. Go to Grok. Grok tracks everyone's Twitter. So he says, according to AI, let's see, is actively advocating for Walter Clayton Jr. is actively advocating for the game, who are looking to replace All-American guard. On X, confirmed the visit's underway. Florida fans expressing excitement and potential addition to the roster. No commitment has been reported yet, and Lee's decision is expected to hinge on coaching fit and playing opportunities as he managed to recruit personnel. Well, look, Billy Napier can recruit like a son bitch. So, like, dude, if anyone's got that, I mean, that's good possibility. That could make big difference. So
this will be big. I mean, look, there's all kinds of stuff. Love the comments from people. Yancy Porter, WL Hotline. Love having you on. Let me say something
6'4" junior. Wow, he's awesome. This guy is something else. Sorry, I'm just reading about it.
Oh yeah, no. I saw that comment and I didn't say anything because I don't know how much recruiting stuff that you had, but love these comments from Chuck McKenzie, Perry Mason, Rob Anderson. Schools look after number one. No,
number one.
Everybody looks out for number one. Let me say something.
And you know what, Rob? Hey, by the way, you know what, Rob? The Gators are number one.
Yeah,
all year long, baby.
And you know, we got SEC baseball going on right now.
I know,
and we're not talking a lot. This league is so dominant it may be more dominant in baseball than
fun.
It was in basketball because this
baseball's
man,
fun.
It is.
Now we get to pay attention to baseball, which means we have to talk to Mitch Lee. Is it Mitch Lee?
Mitch Davis?
Mitch Davis, sorry.
Yeah. And I've got a request into Coach Thompson, Butch Thompson, Auburn's baseball
Mitch Davis has got that guy goes to every baseball game.
Oh, he does. Mississippi State. And he and Job have a lot in common because Mississippi State baseball, like Jake said yesterday, their fans have checked out on that. How can Mississippi State baseball be where they are? Hey, happy days, man. Landers Ford take $500 off for SEC Sidelines audience members. Look, there's some trade-in opportunities with the tariffs being what they are. If you're looking to trade your vehicle in, get hold of Brad Bellamy, our friend, the general manager at LandersFordMemphis.com. Call and ask for him. Open every day of the week except Sunday. New cars, trucks, and SUVs. They're getting on the lot the 2025 Ford Expeditions. I'm an F-150 guy. They're good looking, and they've got the Ford Escape.
I had an Expedition in Colorado when I lived
there. I had one.
It was just gas guzzler, but this would be, awesome.
They're good. The new ones are phenomenal, and the new Broncos and the service department.
I'll take a Bronco.
Yeah, the Broncos are phenomenal. The Sasquatch version.
I want the bigger tires though.
Yeah, the big tires with the tire on the back called the Sasquatch version. They're gorgeous. Great people out there. LandersFordMemphis.com. Poplar and Houston Levy.
Doesn't he know that I'll like drive around and like do slow motion videos
and rap?
Ooh, hey, by the way, rap. I forgot to tell you. I drove a really, really cool car. I took Stella to school today in a Maserati.
Wow, that's
I've never driven like this was a fine piece of machinery there, my friend.
Well, I'm gonna tell you one thing: they are, and the folks out there at Landers Ford, oil change, $25 rebate.
I know they'll do anything on any car, all your service vehicles, everything, they don't care.
They will, and Old Glory is flying again after those storms. Old Glory's up at Poplar and Houston Levy, where Memphis meets Collierville, and it's right down there. I was in Hewlett and Dunn. Went by there and got everybody lunch yesterday on a Monday. Man, now they've got a 75% off rack with the winter stuff because it's starting to get hot up here. And
that's the thing, Rob. I need to come down and come to Hewlett.
Come up. You got to go up to the south.
Well, see, I've been saying that my whole life because I'm from Colorado, so I'm always going down. But okay.
I'm telling you, Brenden, they're the best. Lydia and Raven and J.M. Huffman, Charles Hall, his wife Laura, they're great people. They've got these Barber computer bags. They've got Filson computer bags that you can travel with. All the luggage.
Yeah, STS, but that's not why you go there. You go there for the boots,
for the great selection.
And the hats, of boots. My hat.
Yeah, and you've got great looking hats, and you're able to put the headphones on over them. And they've got.
I need to work this out though. This
come up to Memphis. We'll take you to Hewlett and Dunn, and you will. It's the store. It's a big store, and it's personal. When you go in there, it's like going to the general store, going back in time, and they've got all the latest fashions, STS, duck heads, unbelievable polos and button downs. I'm wearing one today. Great stuff at HewlettandDunn.com. They'll ship anywhere.
I have a cool shirt. I have to wear my shirt. I just washed it the other day.
Yeah. Which one was that you got?
The one with all the drinks on it.
Yes. That's the acres down south. That is
I
correct.
clearly need an upgrade. And you know what? I've been taking pictures in my hats for them. So I'm gonna model for them
Well,
on
you are.
Instagram, and I'm gonna post it I'm gonna see, because I got to come down to Hewlett and Dunn and
You
meet
got
everybody.
come up there and meet them. They'll love you. They're sitting there. When are we going to meet your producer? I said, man, executive producer
Tell them I'm
extraordinaire.
tagging them in Instagram, Rob.
Yeah.
And that's like, and I'm trying to give them some props. So
Well, let me tell you something.
look at the boots. I don't
Yeah.
have boots.
I know, and I tried to get you. I'm not
I
giving
hate
up. I tried to
I
back
went-
order you a pair of wild boar boots, and there's
Dude.
still can't get any more of them. So I'm gonna have to switch to a different
I
animal.
went to another place to get boots, and I'm not going to mention Boot Barn, but I went there, and I have the worst boots and the worst fit on the boots, and I can't wear. I don't like wearing them.
Well,
They
boots,
hurt my feet all the
we'll
time.
get- we
so
can
I
get
need
you
a
some-
better pair of like a real
Yeah.
boot place.
we're gonna get you some boots from Hewlett and Dunn.
Look
We
at
got to
those.
do it
Those-
11 and a
those
half
short
foot
boots are
size.
cool.
And
Look
I'm
at
going to
that.
tell you what, they're open every day of the week except Sunday, 10 a.m.
Ooh,
to 6 p.m.
golly.
And if you've got old boots and you want to get them restored,
That's not
they've
too-
got bootiers that will go in there and restore them. Great
What are
selection.
What are they called?
A bootier.
Boutier?
A bootier that they restore boots. And I had Jimmy Calhoun, one of my friends in my hunting club, took a pair of boots in there and he picked them up. He said, my God, they're as nice as they were when I got them. Your heel falls off, whatever, they'll get you squared away. Hey, they've got great stuff out there at hewlettanddunn.com. Hey, the least among us. Mother Teresa said it best. We can't all do everything. We can all do something. Do something great today. Thanks for watching. Watch the Buddy Martin Show tonight. And we'll
Carpe diem.
Carpe diem. Seize the moment. Seize the day.
And go Gators.
Hey. All 16 SEC schools are loved here on the sideline.
And the Gators.
Oh, they're one of the 16.
Number one.
National champions.
I don't gloat much, but
No.
when I do, it's
You gloat.
usually something interesting. And
That's right. That's right. AI and sports, Brenden. We're going to talk about it.